Hello and warm welcome to yet another exciting edition of the final take with me, Seni MK Marina, exploring the week's major news and providing comprehensive news analysis with experts. Here is a look at what's coming on today's show. Women in political leadership and representation in the Gambia. We examine the challenges impending the women's involvement in politics and decision-making processes in a special conversation with right advocate Fatou Jan Senghor and former independent presidential aspirant Mary Sok. Also on the program, the Gambia moved to revive the draft 2022 constitution as the government announces plan to gazette the new bills of right ahead of its return to parliament. We discussed the merit of the draft constitution and its importance in strengthening the country's emerging democracy. Asking lawyer Salu Tal, what's the difference in the chapter journey this time around? That's the final take with me, Seni MK Marina, exploring a week of news and current affairs. When we come back after this break, thanks for joining us.
Tune into the final take with MK Marina every Saturday on the Alcamba Times and experience extensive conversations on a variety of topics, including national and international headlines, breaking issues, and major developments in politics, business, innovation, science, and sports, along with inspiring stories and expert analysis to provide a comprehensive understanding of the news.
Thank you, wherever you are. Thanks for being with us today. Let's start this conversation with women's involvement in politics and recent efforts to promote and encourage their participation in national decision-making in the Gambia. Forming more than three-quarters of the population at more than 60%, women representation in Gambian politics greatly minimize the impact of the current country's single largest demographic. Despite forming the majority, very few women are involved in politics, making their representation one of the smallest proportions in the leadership index. The government, in partnership with civil society, is trying to change this. But what are they up against in their effort to promote women leadership in the country? Let's get answers from two erudite women rights advocates, Fatou Jan Senghor, the first woman and Marisok, the first woman to contest as an independent presidential candidate in the country. Thanks for joining us. Let's start with Marisok. Women involvement in politics have always been challenged by unfair playing field with men dominating political environment. Do you see this changing, and how can women take up their rightful place in the political leadership in the country?
Hello, Mr. MK Morena. Thank you so much with Alcamba Times for inviting me on this your platform today. I'm really glad that you're addressing this issue. As we know, especially in the Gambia, women shy away a lot when it comes to politics because of the social norms and, the regard for women in higher office. But we hope that with the younger generation, the young women coming up, that they can see that differently, because education is part of that. A lot of women are suppressed to think that they cannot go beyond just being, in the house or in the kitchen, or just being a regular office worker. And someone told me the other day, why don't you just work as a vice president? And these mentality is why women are feeling as well that they cannot join office, or they cannot stand for higher than just a vice president, or standing even in the forefront when it comes to politics, because of all the social norms and name callings and bashing and stuff like that. And it is sad, because we make over 50% of the population, and every head of state that have made it to office, they made it to office because of those women that rally behind them. And I think the woman doesn't know how powerful she is, and coming together as women, it is such a powerful tool. But unfortunately, they are the very ones that support the least when they see their fellow woman stand in the forefront, not knowing that really us standing in the forefront is nothing but to empower and make sure women's rights are heard, women are given a fair share of the cake, women are respected, women are put on a higher pedestal. Most countries are advancing today because they have done that. Senegal, for example, has women all over. You see how many female contested for the presidency in their last elections. You go to their parliament, you go to their offices. Women are so powerful. There's so many powerful women groups. They even have a bank for women in Senegal. And unfortunately, in Gambia, we're still lagging behind as women because we don't really know our worth and what we really should stand for.
Madam Sok, when you decided to contest for 2021 presidential election, a lot of people were like, "Wow, is the Gambia really ready for a woman president?" You break that record. Are we seeing, a new wave of Gambian women, taking up this crucial political role come 2026 presidential election? What efforts are you doing?
Well, we sensitize a lot of women, especially I have faith in the younger women, the younger generation, because they are more aware of what is happening around the world and they are online. In other countries, it's not a question of she's a woman or she's a man. When a woman stands, it's all about rally behind. There's no question about it. And I think they're waking up to that right now. And we hope that we see more women standing. I have a lot of young women joining my team, my group. And not only that, I think sometimes it's the education level or the mentality of politics, women in politics. When they term politics as dirty, mostly women don't like to involve themselves into something like that because they think of smadomi, my children, my grandkids, and stuff like that. But standing in politics, you standing to make that life better for your child. You standing to make that life better for that girl child or that boy, child. You standing to make sure there's a fair share to the kids. You stand up to have your voices heard because us, the women, take the majority of the role at the home with our families, with our kids. So it is important that women stand up and stand into politics to be able to get that voice heard. When you give a woman a seed, the woman turns that seed into a plant, that plant turns into a flower, and that flower turns into bread or millet or whatever for the whole family. That is what the meaning of being a woman is. We multiply, we add value in our houses, in our workplace. We know that. It's just the fear they put in women that politics is dirty, and that mentality, that lack of understanding or knowledge or educated in the field. No, it is not just for women. But hopefully, as the younger generation are coming, they're going to school, they're going to college, they're graduating, they're seeing things online, they're realizing that, hey, this, to be a president or to be a vice or to be a minister, a man can do it and a woman can do it too.
Yeah, and there is people attribute a woman's lack of political representation to the laws and also the environment. How do you think we can break this cycle to allow women to, participate in politics instead of serving as cheerleaders for men who use them to, get into office? At the end of the day, they don't even care about, their rights, when they get into office.
Yeah, we saw that in the last elections. We saw how many women were nominated in office. We saw even in the National Assembly how many women are representing. And it's a sad thing, but I blame the parties. In most of these political parties, you hear them talk about advocating for women. We stand for the women, we stand for the youth, we stand for the women, we stand for the youth. But then once they win and they go into office, the buck stops there. The buck stops right there at the political party level. So you, the woman that have been clapping, dancing, and doing all that, you are not being represented in office. And it's high time women wake up to that, because it reduces us as women to that category that we're only there to dance and cook the benachin and the mahal. And I think it's time that women begin to take that stance and say, no, If I can dance and I can sing and I can cook the benediction and the bahal, I can also have representation or be in office where I can represent, my fellow woman. And I think that is where the disconnect is. But it is up to the woman to stand up to that. It is up to the woman to stand up and say, I'm not going to clap and dance only. I want to be in the office. I want to have a share. I want to be able to make decisions, and this is one of the reasons I advocate for women in my movement, young women to stand. I educate them. I talk to them, because I would like to have 50% women in office, because with women, we make so much better decisions, especially when it comes to the well-being of our families. We do it at home and we can do it on a higher level. Then they can be doing sauna, jigeni doing sauna. We are the only ones that can take care of our problems.
You were an independent presidential candidate in 2021. Later, you throw your weight on behind the opposition United Democratic Party, and you campaigned for them. Unfortunately, they couldn't win the last elections. So now, are we seeing a different entity in terms of contesting the elections come 2026? Is Marie Sok going, as a, independent candidate, or he's still gonna work with other women to break that cycle in terms of women political representation?
Well, we always have our ASD, Alliance of Social Democrats. We've had the movement. Alliance of Social Democrats, the movement is the first political movement in the Gambia since 2019. And the reason why we formed the Alliance of Social Democrats is because we feel the party system is old. The party system is just there to cater to one man, one person, and that one person, when he jumps, everybody jump. When he sits, everybody sits. And I think this generation of young people, they cannot understand that. It's not, it's not towards what the generation is looking for. The generation now and the women now, they're looking for inclusivity. This party system is not inclusive. It does show inclusiveness when you're on the party ground. But once it transits from waiting into the office, it does not cater to the youths, nor the children, nor the women. So to break that cycle, I think only a movement can move the Gambia forward, which we have formed since 2019. And in the movement, we don't have any exclusive, like like we don't need this. We include everybody from woman, male, young, old, everybody is one. Whether you are disabled, able, it doesn't matter, because we are all Gambians. If you call for unity, then you have to form something that involves everybody, and everybody has a voice. Now, when we transit to government, the people, the heads, or the whoever wants to be in government, first, I'm not to choose them. The movement selects them. So, and we want 50% women and 50% men. We need inclusivity. We need everybody to have a voice. I don't make that choice. The movement makes that choice. Because once in office, I have absolutely nothing to do in ASD, because I can't hold myself accountable if I'm in office and then running ASD. So ASD has its own setup, which is Alliance of Social Democrats. It has its own setup. And that setup is like like I'm in there and they're the ones monitoring us. So everyone that is in office, be it, whether you are in a party, you're not in a party, whether you're in the diaspora, it doesn't matter, as long as you have qualifications and you have, experience, and you want to work. ASD will vote you in, and you will be in there working with everybody. And you will not partake in any political activities whilst in office, unless we are going to meet the people's store or whatever, but it's strictly meet the people's store. So our system is completely different. And this is why in 2019, people didn't really understand it. But I'm so glad that Senegal came up with the project, and it's kind of similar to what we have. And people are beginning to understand what we mean by a movement. We are gone at the days of one man is party leader, party secretary general, party flag bearer. And then, we already creating a dictator. We are creating a dictator in that system because one man is in that system, in that party system for decades on end. You understand? And not wanting to change with the times and let go for other people to step in. That's a sign of dictatorship. So
Marisol, this is a challenge in most of the political setups in the Gambia. You see a party that is established around one person. So when that particular person is not in there, normally you see most of these parties struggling. What plans do you have in your, social Democrats? In case Marisol is not there, do you have a successive plan in your movement?
In our movement, I don't have a movement. Our movement works like this. Let's say, for example, coming this election, and we don't make it to office. I will still be part of the board. The board now, if I say I don't want to run anymore in the next 5 years, we need to start grooming 4 people in the system, preparing them for the next 5 years. And then when we groom them, we will fight and go out to elections for that person. That's how we operate. It cannot be just me 10 years running. If I 10 years running and I didn't make it, I can give chance to somebody younger and groom them. Let's say 2026 comes and I do go into office. Once I go into office, I don't do politics. I don't have time for politics. That is why the movement is there. The movement takes care of everything that I'm supposed to do. They know what is on ground. They are the eyes and ears. They know if I'm working or I'm not working. Anyone that is in the cabinet does not go out to campaign. The campaign is done by ASD. We have no cause to be going out and campaigning because when we work, when you do your work, you don't need to be out there idling because that is wasting taxpayers' money. When we, when our time is over and we say, okay, we're going back to elections, we do our 2 terms. Let's say I do my 2 terms. I should be able to now relinquish that post. And within the ASD, they will train people so that they are prepared and prepare them for office. I cannot do more than 2 terms because there are new generation coming up. There are new people coming up, new ideas coming up, and they need to take that movement forward. It will be against our policy to do that. So that is what a movement stands for, because I can even do the first 5 years and I might not perform well. And if I don't perform well, the movement, which is the people, have the right to vote me out.
So meaning ASD is not established around the personality of Marisol.
No. Marisol right now is not even on the documentation of ASD. Marisol is just an independent candidate and the ASD is behind Marisol. Now, when Marisol goes to office, if Marisol was part of the board of ASD, Marisol has to relinquish that position in the board. And Marisol now is in the office. So Marisol cannot partake in anything that ASD is doing because I can't hold myself accountable. I have to leave that alone so that the ones that are there, they can now be the eyes and ears and be able to now, they're like a pressure group. They are the ones to tell me, hey, you're not working. Or look, your minister is not doing this or this and this. So all of us in cabinet cannot partake in the politics outside. Because once you do that, it's a conflict of interest. And we need to do away with having people in office and partaking in political activities. Because out of 5 years that you're in office, 3 years is nothing but politics. From National Assembly to councillors, to all of that, the whole office is campaigning. That is one of the reasons we are where we are today. But if we have a movement, the movement can do their selection. After work, we can all go and campaign after work. But during working hours, people in cabinet needs to work.
Absolutely.
And they don't particularly have to be part of ASD to do that. They don't have to be part of whatever. It doesn't matter. As long as we are Gambians, we are eligible to make our country go forward. Actually, if the movement is fair and square and is open to everybody, it attracts people to come in willingly without fear of being sacked, without fear of saying, I'm not part of the crew. Because guess what? In office, we don't practice politics. What we practice is coming together and working to take our nation forward. And these are the agendas of the ADC. And I cannot control it. Because
you have a working experience in politics now, because you have partner with men that have been in party politics for a long time, and you have learned from your own lessons. So tell us, what's your experience look like as a woman, who is trying to break that chain to become the president of the republic? What is your lesson? What lessons do you learn from the past election as a woman, and how do you intend to make changes to those lessons learned during the previous election going forward?
Well, in 2015, I entered politics, and I was with the GDC. And when I see how basically president makers, trying to make a president. And I learned a lot, and I came to realize that, no, that's not, I cannot stand for such, because as you are preparing somebody for office, that person has to be willing to be prepared. That person should be prepared or want to be prepared. But the idea here, and it's not only there, when I went to another party, which was National Unity Party, all I saw is that people wanting to go into the office, a lot of people want to go into office, but they don't even want to understand their own manifesto. They don't want to understand their own constitution. All they care about is to go into the office. And the country is bigger than that. And I cannot stand with somebody or people that is their agenda. For example, in the National Unity Party, we would have a meeting, and we'll call for a meeting at 4 o'clock. People will not come till 7. Meanwhile, I have a long day. I came since probably early in the morning, and I'm working. Then from work, I go straight to have the meeting so that I can show them, how to use the HDMI cable and connect it and do the manifesto and all that. And they don't come till 7, 8 o'clock. So that lackadaisy attitude, it's not going to take the country forward. I don't care whatever party it is. Today, we are talking about the national assemblies. They're there. Some of them don't even know their role. Most of these national assemblies came from a party. Guess what? If I had a political party for 30 years, trust me, I would every 2 years know that election is coming. I will call up for a training for National Assembly members. I'll say, listen, if you want to apply for National Assembly, you guys, we are having training. In the party, have a training session so that you train people that are eligible for NAMs. You train 50 people and prepare them. And they go out there and do their best. The same with your councillors. But right now, you have a party, 30 years, 40 years, and you have National Assembly members just because you're giving political favors or whatever, and they have zero clue of what it is to be a National Assembly member. But you cannot beat your chest and say, we are the biggest party. You're the biggest party based on what? Numbers? Numbers can always change. You're the biggest party, the best party. Don't just be the biggest, be the best. Be the best that can be. That means our people are trained. Our people are educated about the Constitution. Our people are this. You ask the youths that had come to my camp. Even today, I had a big meeting with the youths, and they said, Auntie Marie, so you janga. I had a lady, she said, man janga na lubari si Auntie Marie. Because I said, you need to read my manifesto. Anybody that said, I want to be part of you, I said, no, you cannot just be part of me. I'm going to send you my manifesto. I want you to take your time. I want you to read it, understand it, then call me and tell me what you think. And when we have that, and that is what we're going to bring in the ASD, we're going to create trainings and prepare for National Assembly. We're going to prepare trainings and prepare for our councillors. If you don't come to our training, I'm sorry, we cannot stand with you.
Absolutely. Marisok, we are running out of time. I am trying to connect with Fatou Jan Senghor, who should share this panel discussion with you, but she is facing some challenges. I know later in the program, she will definitely join us. So I have a couple of questions before I let you go. What opportunities does this new democratic dispensation offer to women aiming to enter politics? Did they offer a fair playing field for women who want to seek political leadership offices? What opportunities exist in the current political dispensation for women?
Well, if you look at the whole political dynamics right now, it doesn't really offer, like I said, it's the same old thing. And this is why we're changing the game. You understand? If I can stand now as an independent and call women to join me and say, hey, we need to change this game. We need to flip the script. But when you go to other political parties, you are welcome. They have a woman's wing. They have a women's wing. They have a youth wing. We don't have wings. We don't have women wing or youth wing. It's nonsense. There's no woman wing or youth wing. We are all here. We have wards. And we break our wards to female chairmanship. We have female chairman. We have male chairman. We break it down because a man can be a chairman, a woman can be a chairman. But the moment you break it into that system, into a woman's wing, where is the men's wing? Why isn't there a men's wing? How would it feel if I am a woman running and I have a political party and then I have a men's wing and a youth wing? Does that sound like it's inclusive?
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound inclusive to you?
Not very inclusive.
That's segregation right there, because you are showing that these people, the youth and the women, they are segregated, and that you control the narrative. The men control the narrative. So if I'm a woman and I have a political party and then I have a men's wing and a youth wing, that is showing that now this is a woman's thing. And then we have the men over there and the young people. So there's no inclusivity in that system. And that is not encouraging, and it's not transmitting or transforming into office when they go to office. Because today, when they go into office, you will see it there. Then there will be no women's wing or anything. It will be 50-50. But it's not. Right now, I think we have only three ministers in the whole government. Does that make sense? It doesn't.
So there is a level of injustice or inequality among women's representation in politics. Marisol, thank you very much. You can still stay on the line. Fatou Jan Senghor, the former director of Article 19 International, is also joining this conversation right now. Madam Jan Senghor, welcome to the final take with me, Seni Marena. See, it seems he's having some connection challenges, but we'll still go with you. She will join us anytime soon. Yeah. So finally, before I let you go, Marisol, we have seen that the government has decided to bring in back the new draft constitution, and you have participated in the drafting process. What's your take on this new draft constitution that is about to be presented to the National Assembly? This is a topic of its own because I have a former Gambia Bar Association president, but as a key stakeholder, I wouldn't do justice without engaging you on this very important topic.
Well, I read through the final, take of it, and there are a few things I noticed which are very prominent. But, one of the things was the term limit. I noticed there was no term limit there. The dual citizenship, it just vague. It was up there. It says dual citizenship, but it doesn't really mention whether if you want to be a head of state, whether that matters or not. It was just up there. So I have a question on that. And a whole lot of other things. I mean, what is good about it, the sovereign? I love the fact that they have it as a sovereign state. But as I said earlier, since it's going to the National Assembly, and I think probably it should have been at the National Assembly, because I don't feel right that it was tampered with, I felt it should have gone to the National Assembly, and the National Assembly take care of that, because that's what they're for. But since they have done it this way and it's going to the National Assembly, I'm patiently waiting to see what comes out of there.
Okay. Thank you very much, Marisol. Fatou Jan Senghor, if you are there, can you hear us well? And then welcome to the final take with me, Seni Marena.
Thank you, Seni.
Good.
Good evening, Mrs. Sok.
Welcome,
Good,
welcome.
good, good. Welcome, welcome. We don't have much
Welcome.
time because Marisol have been doing all the talking, but it's a panel discussion, and you are all prominent in your own ways in trying to empower women and girls to seek political office. So Madam Jan Senghor, my first question is: can we boast of a robust representational democracy if the largest population demographic remain underrepresented?
Indeed, I think we cannot be proud of what we are seeing today. I think Mrs. Sok already mentioned it. The statistics are there, and it's very appalling. Few women are in the decision-making bodies. When you look at the National Assembly, in terms of the local government, I think also, and I think where is more problematic, even at the at the executive level where you don't have elections, so where it is by appointment. So we would have thought that after all the things that women went through, especially during the dictatorship, their contribution to liberating the country, we were hoping that we will see some kind of parity in the government. A case in point, you as we all know, we used to have kind of a tradition of having a vice president, a woman.
Yeah.
It started during the first years of the transition, and for some reasons, that tradition has been, stopped. At the National Assembly, also during the first years of the transition, we had a speaker, and as we speak, the speaker and the deputy speaker, they all are men, and the clerk of the house. So you see, like in most leadership positions, they're all men. And I want to take it even further. Look at the other institutions, the boardrooms, and also the public institutions, the director generals in this country, from the central bank to the auditor generals, and in all areas, I think women are really not well represented. And this is a problem, given the contribution of women, given the fact that women are well educated in this country, and they have the standards, they have the qualifications and the experience. So there's no excuse for such a vacuum.
How do we bridge this gap? Because these discussions have been ongoing. That look, political parties will even say, we are committed to providing women, equal representation. But when you look at their actions, women are still not represented, and these women form part of the majority of voters who will vote and put. What should women do in order to bridge that gap now and say, no, we also want to be part of the national cake?
I will not calculate a cake, but I think you need to have a seat where decisions are made, especially decisions that will affect you, affect your family. The way I think to do it is not to wait to be appointed. It's not also to wait to be nominated. So I salute all the courageous women who, vie for election, who put themselves, set up parties, also, and push the boundaries and saying that, yes, we want to have our say. And the last parliamentary election, I think there was an unprecedented number of women, vying for office. Obviously, our electoral system is not very favorable to women, but we need to push and we need to forge ahead, form coalitions, work with more women leaders who are interested, but also change the tradition and change some of the how to call it, some of the stereotypes that we are seeing in this country, where if you are a woman and you want to vie for election, it's made more difficult than if you are a man. And I believe it is very important in this country that we push ahead and have corrective measures, because it's not going to work overnight. We have to have legislation. We have to have a clear framework that will help women to really be part of the decision-making bodies. And for me, I think the first step is to have a parity law, and also ensure that parity also is included and implemented in the future, included in the constitution, and have bylaws that will strengthen the participation of women. We have the Women's Act, but nobody respects it. And more, I believe it's clear that in the Women's Act, issues around participation, you have the Maputo Protocol, which Gambia ratified. All those instruments are there, but we need to have something that is stronger, a specific legislation that will direct political leaders. And one thing also that we need to do is to ensure that the political parties respect parity. All of them will tell you, yes, we do have 30% of representation, but you don't see that in reality during elections. Yes, you have them during their Congress. They have all these women elected in different kind of commissions or committees within the parties. But when it comes to really nominating women to go ahead and be members of parliament, local government, you don't see them. So the problem is that it's lip service. And if you have a law that will impose from political parties to the executive that women must be represented, either 30% to start with or 50%, depending on what we will be bargaining for. And I think at least the AU standard is 30%. I believe we need to do more.
So how do we hold these political leaders accountable for their actions, like the 30% women representation? Because most of them is just like a lip service. They say things, they don't mean it. So how do you hold them accountable to ensure that what they say is something that they do, in practical?
Yeah, I think for quite some times now, most of these parties have been, really problematic. I must say, they all include 30%. Just I think to amuse the gallery. But when it comes to real life, you don't see them appointing women to start, during the campaigns. How many of the parties will say all our nominations will be equal? So we will have, if we are putting in the different constituencies, if we are putting 100 candidates, we must ensure that 30 or 50% of those candidates are women, irrespective. And if they campaign for those women, if they work together with the communities, those women will be elected, because most of these elections also are through the parties. But the excuses that we are hearing in most cases, the communities are conservative. If you put in a woman, they will not have a chance. But if all the parties are doing that, with time, we will have a change. And I think the accountability issue will come with legislation, because then if you don't implement the legislation, then there can be sanctions. So for me, I think we should not leave it, on the goodwill of political parties to decide.
Marisol, women's faces a lot of challenges, as narrated by Fatou Jan Sangor. You are among very prominent women who have the gut to challenge the status quo. What can we do to challenge these laws? Because the laws are already there, but the issue of implementation is a problem. How do we challenge, this implementation of the law to ensure that women are actually represented in decision making?
Well, to challenge it is exactly the word. It's going to be very challenging to do that. And this is one of the reasons we stand we stand at the forefront so that we can make those changes. Because it is not something that can be done, just like she explained. The laws are there. We have laws to have women to be included and everything, but it's not being implemented. And until we begin to take the bull by the horn and be part of, that decision making, it will not happen. And this is one of my fights. My fight is to be in there and be able to make these changes so that we can have more women representation. Today, we have a lot of issues in the Gambia pertaining to women, and no one can solve it for us. And just like she said, it's all lip service in the political party system. Yes, we have women, but when it transitions to office, you're shocked when you see that 3 women are appointed or 2 women are appointed, National Assembly. How can you make decisions for women? I always advocate for that. I said, because one day Africa, we talk about unity in Africa, we take it back to Africa. Africa wants to be united. But if we as women don't start standing in the forefront, that decision table in Africa will also be all men. And there'll be no woman to sit there to decide for us. And without us, there's no humanity. So this is one of the reasons I stand, because I stand with a lot of women that put me to the seat. I didn't just stand by myself. They put me there to help them so they can get representation. And this is why my fight is different. My fight is not, Marisol just wants to be a president. No, my fight is to be able to open that door for a lot of other women, put me, I'm fit. A lot of other women to be able to come forward and stand with me, so that we can have women representation in all sectors of the government, in all sectors, central to local, government, because it is necessary. Look at today the local government. Just look at the local government. Watch the commissions. It's all men. How many women did you see come to those commissions? How many women did you see coming to talk for their people, for the women? We're complaining about the markets. We're complaining about the women. We're complaining about the hospitals. The local government is very powerful because these deals directly with the people. And where's the representation there?
Absolutely.
Where's the representation?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mary Sok, for that brilliant explanation. Let me go back to Fatou Jan Senghor. What role should communities and political parties play in enhancing access for women and increase consultation and training targeting women leaders?
Well, I believe this should not be like a once-off. What we've seen in, every time that you have election, you have all these workshops, all these seminars. I don't think that will help really the representation. Yes, we do have some laws that are favorable to women, but they are not fully implemented. But I think what is needed to have a proper law dedicated to parity, to equality, in terms of representation, and ensure that in that law, the whoever is if the law is not implemented either by the political party, for example, their list will not be accepted. Like you have the situation in Senegal where they have semi-parity. It's not yet parity fully, but at least at the National Assembly and in all elected positions, you have to have a parity list. If you have a man on the list, you will have a woman. Of course, our system is not like a list. It's more like a constituency based. But the reform that we are looking forward will have to look at some of those difficulties, because the electoral system in itself doesn't favor women representation. So in many countries, what they're doing is to have what they call the proportional list, a list that will enable minorities, other groups to be elected because the way it is organized. But if you just leave it as it is, the traditional way of nomination, I don't think that we will get any chance of women being elected. But we need to look at the legislation. We need to look at the system of representation in this country. We need also to look at how also the representation is done, especially at the local government. And I agree with Mary on that, because at the local government, that is where day-to-day decisions are made, affecting the market woman, affecting the mother, affecting schools, the health centers, the daycare, whenever they exist. And these are places where women should have a say. So if you have all those institutions, at all those levels, you have men representing, the rest of us, it will be very difficult for our issues to be tackled properly and even to be considered. And we've seen it. How many places do you go where you see you don't have daycares, proper daycares? The health system is deteriorating in many places, because I believe where you should have women discussing the budget, the priorities, women are not there. So what is discussed? Buying big cars, buying artificial things. But when women are in those places, and in the countries where women are in those decision-making places, you see the priorities will change. Because if I'm to choose between, buying certain kind of goods and taking care of, the basic necessity of the communities, normally women will go for the basic necessity for the communities than buying, very, very expensive car or, other things, or spending all the resources traveling and leaving the communities with peanuts. So I do believe that it's time now, and the time is right. We are talking about the new constitution. We cannot be in the 21st century and have a country like ours where women have fought so hard, from day one. And look at during the struggle, during the fight against oppression. Women were in the street fighting, going to court. Women were supporting the families. When women in the diaspora, they were all in the streets, protesting day in, day out. And when everything ended, you realize that women were pushed aside, and men took over everything and are deciding. And look at where we are today, and a lot of infighting, a lot of instability, a lot of tensions. And I believe that if women are at the helm of affairs, some of these tensions will be dissipated.
Absolutely. Marisol, do you want to add something on that before I ask Fatu my last questions? Because
No, just to
Salutal will
buttress,
be.
just to buttress, just to buttress. And Fatu, just to tell you, that is one of the reasons we don't have a political party. I feel the political party system is old. It's not working anymore for the new era of younger people. I think there's no fairness in it. This was designed many, many years ago, and it was designed for a reason because of the colonial era. You understand? One man control all, that man can be controlled by the West. That's what I see. And now the generation now is not going to accept that. People want to be inclusive. You know, the youths want to be inclusive in the decision making. The women want to be inclusive in the decision making. And in order for us to have that, we have to break that cycle of political parties and come together and have a, how do you call it, a movement. And in that movement, every gender comes on board. And it's only a movement that can change that. And when that movement finally puts in a candidate, then now we can make those changes where we can have, because the movement is the one that decides who and what goes in that office. You understand? Because you all will not fight for what is right. And then now you choose, okay, 3 women only, because it's not one man deciding. You know, this is a movement. The movement decides. And that is the voice of the people. That's the voice of the people. Today, Senegal went in a movement, which is a movement for a project. They have a project and they sell that project. You understand? And in other countries, it's not a movement, but you have the military. You understand? So people are shying away from this political party system because it's not moving anymore. It's not working anymore. And the generation that we have now, the people between 18 and 40, you understand? They ain't having it this way. You cannot jump, one man jump, one man sit, you sit, one man decides, decide. And that's what we've been seeing. And it has to change. I stand for that. I stand for us to have a say. I stand for women to get up. We cannot be the majority and then be the minority in the decision making. And that
thank
has
you.
to change.
Thank you very much, Marisol, for your time joining us on the final take with me, Seni Marena. Let's go back to Fatou Jansenwo. Fatou Jansenwo, we have seen that, the government has announced plan to gazette the constitution and also present it to the National Assembly. You took part in the constitutional building process, and then the draft constitution cater for equal representation for women. Are you concerned about the new draft constitution that has been presented to the parliament?
Yeah, I think no draft is perfect. No constitution is perfect. I think even the first CRC draft, there were some issues that, were raised. In this new one, I think there are many red flags. Maybe focusing on the topic of the day, one thing that I want also to say that there are few positive things about women representation. We've seen it included and reinforced. It was in the CRC draft, but I think here also is taken care of. There are few problematic areas in terms of choices. And I want that really, because I've not seen people talking about that. Everybody is talking about the big picture political things. But you see, when women are not taken care of in their homes, when women don't have a say in their homes, it will be very difficult for them to be able to stand on their feet and have a say in the political sphere. So that is why the court system have to be fair. The court system has to be fair to women. We are in a country that respect all religion, that should respect choice. And it's said in the preamble, it says in the first sections that, equality, men and women equal. So once you say that, I think you cannot contradict yourself in terms of the implementation by pushing everything. For example, let me just say this thing about these Sharia courts. Yeah, Sharia courts should be optional. People who would like to be, governed by Sharia should make that option. If they decide, for example, that they don't want to be governed by Sharia, either because they are in a mixed marriage, Muslim and non-Muslim, or a Muslim who doesn't want to be governed by, because we are not a Sharia country. We have majority of Muslims, but, governing people under the Sharia law should be an option. And this is very dangerous trend that we are seeing. And if we are not mindful, they will be giving you the right with one hand and taking it back with another hand. I don't want to go into too much of the details. Look
Yeah,
at the end.
I'm having Salutal as a guest on the
So he will have
constitution.
some of
Just
those.
want
The
to hear
endowment,
you.
around endowment, and
Yes.
what they call in Islam, for example, illegitimate. Most countries have settled that, including in the region. Every child has the same right. So you cannot have a children court that will protect children. And on the other hand, you say everything that has to do with inheritance, endowment should be governed by, Sharia, if you are subjected to Sharia. And what is subjected to Sharia is an option and should be an option. Like if you married on another regime, that should be respected. If you are a Christian or another faith and you decide that you don't want to be subjecting yourself to those law, which is the case generally, people do what they used to call the civil marriage, and what they call, I think, I don't know how, I remember they used to call it, legal marriage generally, but it's like so especially for Christians marrying Muslim, we need to be very, very cautious about that. Everybody is talking about the term limits, the governance issues, but and also we seem to be satisfied with the fact that women and men are said to be equal. But how can you be equal if your choice are taken away from you? So this is something that we need to look into seriously. And especially my concern is about children. We need to be serious looking at the consequences of some of those part of the constitution on the rights of child, on the right of the children in this country. Yes, so definitely there are a few good things, but we need to really look at the constitution seriously, discuss it further, and I believe that there will be a robust submission from civil society, from political parties, from different interest groups to ensure that we consolidate the constitution and ensure that we have the constitution we want, a modern constitution that not only will ensure that we have separation of powers, we consolidate also the rule of law, and the different arms of government will be strong enough to do the checks and balances. But importantly, also the other issues that are in the constitution, we should not overlook those issues, especially the court system and issues of women's rights. It's done. That is the system we have, where you have the court systems detailed in the constitution, because some of these issues, many people have been looking at them in different countries, that the issues of marriage, inheritance, and other things. I believe those details should not be in the constitution, but because that's a tradition, that's a trajectory this country has taken, it's very difficult for us to change it now. But I believe that is why we need to look at it seriously. Why it is important, because no matter which law you have today, because if the constitution set up the basis for inequality, even if you have the Women's Act, if you have other acts, they may say, oh, it is our constitution. And we've seen the jurisprudence, the case law that is also following that jurisprudence. So I think I'm a little bit cautious. It's like, I'm optimistically cautious, to say, yes, we are moving. The debate is very intense. I'm happy that we are debating. People are interested in the constitution. They are pushing ahead. And I hope that decision makers, but also the different political parties, will listen to the citizens. This is not about politicians only. This is about our future, about citizenry, about the communities, about the harmony in terms of the way we are living. And, it will serve generations to come. So we need to get a constitution that will pass the test of time.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Fadjan Senghor. Before I let you go, you just established an organization, the Center for Women Rights and Leadership. In 1 minute, tell me what work are you guys doing and why are you into women rights and leadership? In 1 minute.
1 minute. Yeah, well, throughout my life, for more than 2 decades, I've been working in human rights. And as a woman also, I've focused a lot on, within the work I've been doing, notably freedom of expression, I've been focusing quite a lot on women's rights, because I believe also that this is critical. And these issues that we are talking about, the equality issues, the non-discrimination, but also ensuring that women participate fully in the decision that it will affect them in society, those has been my passion, and I've been dedicating my life, professional life, to that. Yes, when I came back 2 years ago in the Gambia, I've set up this center trying to really support organization, but also women who are interested in political leadership to prepare themselves, but also for us women to have a safe space where we can discuss issues affecting us in the public space. But when we talk about women in public space, it's not only the politician, women leadership in public, in public service. It can be a women public servant, it can be a woman journalist, it can be a woman in the boardroom trying also to find her fit. So leadership is also big. So when we talk about women in leadership, everybody thinks that it's the person who wants to, who's vying for election only. It can be the woman in business, the woman who is really in the public space. And what we've seen in the public space in Africa, but especially in this country, more and more women's space are restricted. Restricted in a way that once you start, putting yourself in the public space in everywhere, the infighting starts. We've seen what happened to the Marisol, the Rohilos, the Tumpa guys, and some of the other ones, and they start asking you the questions and questioning your integrity, questioning your qualifications, your right to be in the public space. And I think we need to stop that, because Gambian women are brave, they're educated, they have proven themselves in different sectors, and we need to encourage them and support them to stand and deliver.
Thank you very much, Marisol. Just 1 minute before I have Salutal. We already exhausted my time because the conversation is so interesting. So, Marisol, you have also been doing great work behind the scene. I understand now you are into farming with your with your movement. So tell us about this in 1 minute before we let you go.
Well, as we all are going back to the farms, I have a rice project, a huge rice project. Unfortunately, I'm still looking for funding to implement it because it's a big project. But meanwhile, whilst waiting for that, I decided to go into peanut farming and encourage the youths that are in my team. And, I have also the, the deportees. And I said, listen, we need to change the narrative. You're deported. Of course, there's a thing going on that we are criminals and all that. We need to change that narrative. We need to show that you are responsible. So I said, we have farms, in the villages where they loan us some farms, and we're going to grow some peanuts, and we are going to go over there and help. And when we grow that, what we do is any of them that want to go into business or want to buy a kitty to make a taxi, we now take a little bit of that money and give them as a loan, and they go and work and they pay us back with little interest. So, but they have to work for it. I teach them to work for stuff. You don't get anything for free, So that is what we are doing now. And the rains have started. They've grown. Actually, the villagers did the groundnuts before I even came. And next week, hopefully the next weekend, this weekend I was supposed to be there. I canceled till next weekend. We're going there again and probably help to de-weed and, see what is there and so forth and so on. So I encourage them to come with me. One of the boys said, Auntie Marie, man, do madam ngos ngos. Maneko magbutol ni man mange ngos ngos. Diga ngos ngos.
Interesting. Thank you very much. Many thanks to Madam Fat Jansengor and Miss Marisol, highlighting the challenges of women face in accessing political leadership. Thank you for joining the final take with me, Seni MK Marina. Have a wonderful evening.
Madam Yang, nice meeting you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
This is the final take with me, Seni MK Marina. Let's now take the conversation to the 2020 draft constitution of the Gambia, which is witnessing a rebirth as the government announced plan to gazette and present the new Bill of Rights yet again before the National Assembly. The proposed gazetting comes amid increased pressure from international partners and Gambians for the reintroduction of the draft constitution, which emerged after inclusive consultation covering every part of the country, population, and diaspora. Its rejection almost deems hope of a new charter to lead the Gambians' democratic undertaking. Still, the government recent move is greeted with mixed reaction as the country moved to strengthen transitional process with much needed reforms. Let's bring lawyer Saliu Tal, the former president of the Gambia Bar Association, into the conversation. Thanks for being with me on the final take with MK, Mr. Tal.
Good. Is it good morning or good afternoon, MK?
It's good afternoon from my end.
Well, good evening from Burfoot, from the village of Burfoot.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Tal, why is the new constitution an important requirement to solidify the country's democracy?
MK, as you know, we went through a dictatorship that lasted for 22 years, and this dictatorship was anchored on a constitution that for all intents and purposes was weaponized against Gambia. It was a constitution that basically gave one man so much power that he effectively controlled all arms of government. He controlled the judiciary, or had a lot of control of the judiciary. He controlled executive. He controlled the legislature. And he was able to pass very draconian law that were used against Gambian. He created an environment of impunity and had a constitution which he was able to amend more than 50 times or thereabouts. And so in 2017, when Gambians came together and rejected dictatorship, we had a conversation and agreed that for our newfound democracy, it must be anchored on a people-centered constitution, a constitution that gives power to the people. Not only say that power resides in the people, but in actual fact, it makes sure that power resides in the people, and the three arms of government exist to check their powers respectively, and also to make sure that we can hold our leaders accountable. This is basically the background that led to there was a conference in 2017 where the stakeholders came together and agreed that we have to look at the governance structure of the country. And one of those one thing that came out was that we need to have a transitional justice process. We have to have a new constitution, and we have to have a truth commission, and we also have to make sure there's accountability. And in 2018, I believe the Parliament passed the CRRC Act. Yes, and that basically gave birth to the constitutional building process to really anchor our newfound democracy on a constitution that is fit for our purpose, that is in line with our vision and aspiration as Gambians to build a participatory democracy that's people-centered.
Absolutely. As the former president of the Gambia Bar Association, you work closely in the building of the new constitution because the GBA was actually involved in the process. We have had reports of an alteration in the document. How could this impact the effort to build a consensus?
Well, what do you mean, alteration of which document?
No, I mean the draft constitution that is about to be presented. We have seen there have been a lot of changes to the new draft constitution that the CRC work on. What impact will this changes have to have a consensus in order to have a document like the constitution?
I think it's very important to understand the essence of a constitution. A constitution is not just any document. It's not just any bill. It's not just any act. It's the foundation and cornerstone of a democracy. So for that purpose, it is not only is the content of that constitution important or the bill, but the process that leads to the final document is equally important, because for constitutional building, one of the most important things is to make sure that there's legitimacy and ownership, right? And what do I mean by that? Because a constitution belongs to all the citizens, applies to all the citizens, and should reflect should build a consensus of the divergent views and interests of all the citizens. And that is a monumental task, because imagine, like you just had Fatou Jain was lamenting about some of the provisions of the current draft, right? Which is, in fact, what she was complaining about was actually, is also in the same, hasn't actually changed. The issue of women and children when it comes to the application of Sharia, whether it should be optional or not. That provision, the application of Sharia in the 1997 Constitution, in the rejected 2020 bill, and in the current gazetted remain the same. Sharia law is, as long as you're a Muslim, it applies to you. You can't choose. So that shows you how complex it is, because obviously, despite the fact that there has been consultation around the country, but that provision still remains some in the current gazetted bill. So I think, as you know, I mean, you unfortunately you were the communication officer of the CRRC, so I cannot. I'm preaching to the choir, as they say.
No, you are the lawyer.
No. Saini, let me tell you something.
Yes.
Lawyers don't have a monopoly of knowledge and wisdom when it comes to constitutional building process. We have to separate the drafting of a constitution and the building process. If you remember, your CRRC was a multi-stakeholder body. They have different professionals there. They have lawyers there and non-lawyers there. I mean, in every country you go, constitution is not only about lawyers. Lawyers come with their legal perspective. They understand constitutional law and they can draft. But also, because we are a society not only of lawyers, of diverse citizens, of different levels of education and understanding, and different religions, different tribes. So that's why when you have a constitution, you have a melange of different types of people who come together to bring their different perspectives, so that it cannot be a constitution for one group who may have their vested interest or the other. That's why you had people who are in the media. You have
in the CRC.
Yes.
You know,
so
and within that commission is very diverse. You have
you had the youth represented. You have lawyers, and all of them had an equal say in the final. And not only that, they went out and spoke to Gambians, all Gambians, within and outside the Gambia. They spoke to all the different arms of government. They spoke to the executive. They spoke to the judiciary. They spoke to the legislature. They spoke to civil society. They spoke to interest group. Not only they spoke to the medical dental association, just like they spoke to the bar association. They spoke to the GCCI. They spoke to Gambians who live in the Gambia
and abroad.
And abroad. They consulted women. They consulted very widely, and they even consulted from the start point, even in framing the issue of what to discuss, the questions. They sent it to us to give our opinions, and then they came back and drafted a document.
Inclusive process.
Well, it was very inclusive and participatory and consultative. So, and that is important. And also, even the appointment of the commissioners was clear. We had a say in it. Different stakeholders had a say in it. So legitimacy was throughout the process, and it was also transparent. It was transparent. So that is what gave us CRC 2020. So everybody had their say, but not everybody's say was not everybody's contribution was captured, but they captured what Gambians wanted. What majority of Gambians wanted, because not everybody's perspective can be captured, or maybe some of it will capture. So after that is a report that explained what was accepted and what was not accepted and why. It was done empirically. So we had a report and an explanation memorandum.
Yeah, and also
So every Gambian can go and look at these things. Now, the current, first of all, I mean, I welcome the introduction of a new constitution, because I think it is really disgraceful that we are in 2024 and we still have the 1997 constitution. I think it is a stain to our collective conscience. We cannot speak of any new Gambia as long as we have the 1997 constitution. It's just we can't. Yeah. So as a matter of principle, I do.
Okay, Mr. Tal, you took time. Maybe you don't look at the entire draft constitution of 2024 and the CRC draft, but you have taken time to look at this. Can you tell our viewers what changes were made in the new draft of 2024 compared to the CRC 2022 draft constitution?
I think there are many, there are different. I
Yeah,
believe that
the key changes here.
there are what is key. I think is out for the jury to decide in due course. So, but
Right.
I will I will I have one opinion, and there are many opinions, both from legal luminaries and otherwise.
Yeah.
I believe that I think first of all the methodology of coming up with the 2024 bill is a fundamental shift from how the 2020 bill was how it was introduced was different. The modality of coming to draft, the modality in terms of the consultation and the participatory nature and the transparent nature. I think first of all, this current bill falls short of those important steps and processes. This process, in my humble opinion, it's an opaque process. It's not transparent and it's not participatory, because I know the bar wasn't consulted, and I know I'm also a wider member of civil society. They were not consulted, and I'm not aware of any public consultation. And of course, and I stand corrected. So in terms of the process, there was no consult. I'm not aware of any public consultation of any interest group or civil society or the bar or any group outside the executive. So now you have one arm of government who basically took a document that's a consensus document and decide to make their own amendments without consulting others. So I think that is a fundamental shift from CRC. So that would bring questions of legitimacy. Of course, legally, the executive can present a bill under Section 226 of the Constitution, but the process, for me, in my opinion, is flawed. That's my opinion. So that's a major change. And in constitutional building, if the process is flawed, it inevitably will affect the product, the output. So one group went behind closed doors and looked at it and made changes, and they made changes. Not only did they make those changes, they did not communicate those changes to us, the citizens of the Gambia. They took the document, went through it, made substantive changes, and then on a fine Thursday afternoon, I saw a press release that the document has been gazetted, right? And there is no explanatory memorandum. There's no report as to what is changed and why. I mean, maybe they'll come out and do it, but I think for me that is a major fundamental difference in the current approach. So difference in approach and process, and of course that is a great cause for concern, because the Constitution belongs to all of us. The executive doesn't have more stake in it than the judiciary. Neither does it have more stake in it than the legislature. Neither does it have more stake than the citizens. In fact, the citizens are supreme. So that is a fundamental departure from the approach, and it is not transparent. It's a very opaque process, right? So you have a very terse press release, right? So in terms of what I mean, I've perused through the bill. It's a big document, and I mean there are some. I mean, I must say there are some good positives in the bill, right? So I will start from, as someone who's very passionate about transitional justice. One of the things that I'm particularly pleased about, we have to start with the good first before we go to the not so good, is the fact that that there's a specific provision that which I'm sure you yourself have been fighting for accountability and being a victim would be very happy about. There's a provision that now puts the establishment of an internationalized tribunal. It gives it a constitutional footing, and this is actually really I commend the state for doing that, because this actually makes it easier for the government of the Gambia to set up a tribunal that will ensure that those who are found to have violated, committed international crimes and committed serious human rights violations between 1994 and 2017 are held accountable, which otherwise would have been difficult on our domestic system. So I think that is commendable.
It seems okay. Well, I lost you for a bit. Are you there?
So that is a good thing. And of
Okay.
course, I mean, the baseline of this bill, this gazette bill, is the 2020.
Four.
2020, the baseline is the 2020. They use the 2020 to produce the 2024. So they have made some changes in some substantive changes, which to broadly summarize broadly summarize it, the 2020 departed from the 1997 to make the constitution more people-centered,
Yeah.
as opposed to a constitution that actually put so much power into the presidency. Because in the Gambia, when you say executive, it's the president.
Yeah.
Because we have a system where the president really is the executive. The executive staff, I mean, at the executive, the cabinet serves at the pleasure of the president. So in the past, there's so much power was given like currently in 97, there's so much power given to the presidency, and now the 2020 sought to create a more balance, so that at least the presidency has enough power to do their job, but at the same time they can be held accountable, and there are more checks and balances. So this is where fundamentally this draft has shifted. So, for example, one current if you look at the one thing that is clear across the board is that all the provisions, the Constitution creates independent institutions, right? And all independent institutions. If you look at the 2020, their appointment was subject to parliamentary confirmation, giving approval. The final approval is Parliament, National Assembly. All those have been removed, which means the president retains the same power
as of 1997 Constitution.
So we have gone back. We have taken one step forward, introducing independent institution, and then one step back, making it the president appoints everybody in consultation with bodies that he has also created. Like he'll appoint, let's say, bodies. He'll appoint a particular, chair of an institution, and in consultation with, let's say, the Judicial Service Commission, a commission also that he has appointed. Do you know what I mean? So it's all about concentrating power at the president, at the level of the presidency, without that layer of parliament oversight, parliament confirmation. And the beauty of parliament confirmation is that people, whether you're appointing a cabinet minister, if you look at Nigeria or Ghana, when someone wants to be a minister or even a judge or other offices, they will go, actually they will be asked questions by parliamentarians. They will explain to the population why are you fit to be a minister. They'll question your past. They'll look into how you lived, what you have done, your integrity, not only your competence but your integrity. So that is fundamental. That's a fundamental shift in the current 2024 from the 2020.
Yeah,
and I think that
but if you also realize the paragraph you're talking about on leadership and integrity has been removed.
I was coming to that. I think the bigger, really, I was shocked, to say the least, when I saw the entire paragraph on leadership and integrity. I mean, look at those words: leadership and integrity is completely expunged, removed. The entire paragraph. I mean, you've listened to the TRC proceedings. We've seen issues of bad leadership. That people are taking. Giving directives for people to
go and withdraw a huge amount of money.
About some money. That's the Janet Commission. Both the Janet Commission and the TRC. We've seen examples of bad leadership at different levels, how it has really destroyed the fabric of our society, destroyed our governance structures. That's why this provision was put there, because wherever you go, governments realize that our challenge is leadership, and leadership is not only about Jammeh. It was across. He was president, but it went all the way down. It was a system that was created that institutionalized bad leadership, bad governance. That's why Gambians, when the TRC went around, they say, look, leadership and integrity is important, because we have instances where a president will, somebody will take a note and withdraw money from central bank.
Absolutely.
That's about integrity. So that is why that provision is important. And also things about, I mean, in that provision, you talk about probity of, for example, whether or not a leader can take a gift. A gift. I mean, the gift should be, you should decline it. I mean, those
benchmark for what you can accept as a gift.
Exactly, because they don't want our leaders to be induced. That is bringing a culture of patronage. All those were deleted. Completely. I mean, that's about financial probity of public officials. Completely deleted. I mean, I would really like to know what informed the same government that has established an anti-corruption commission now goes and delete whole section on leadership and integrity. I mean, this is the mother of all laws, the Constitution. So for me,
what does that tell you about governance and leadership issues in the Gambia? Do you think leaders really want to be held accountable for their actions?
Well, I think it's important for the government to really explain to us, the executive, because this is the executive, the president and the cabinet, who decided that in their wisdom or otherwise, that this provision has no place in our constitution. Because I think elevating this to the level of our constitution is a demonstration of their sincerity and commitment to ensure that good leadership and integrity is a cornerstone of our governance architecture. That's why it is given a constitutional standing. And violation of those provisions is against the Constitution, because the breach of the Constitution is a very serious violation. So for them to take it out, I don't want to second guess their reasoning, but I think we look forward to them explaining to us why they think we should not have that provision.
Yes, I mean, and Mr. Tal, not to cut you short, when the CRC presented their draft constitution, they provided an accompanying report explaining what is new, what is added, and why particular sections or schedules were added. But when you look at the government press release with regards to the 2024 draft constitution, there's no explanatory note. There is nothing. So why is it that the government didn't bring this draft with an accompanying report or explanatory note to tell the population that this is the reason why we take so and so, as in the case of the CRC? Why do you think they didn't come up with a note like that?
Well, I think the first thing I said, even before you asked me, was that the process is flawed.
Yes.
Right. And I think that can be better answered by the executive, because obviously they have decided, one stakeholder out of many stakeholders has decided to have a second bite at the cherry, as I would like to put it. So why did they, and having done that, they don't see it fit to explain to us, the citizens, at whose behest they exist to as cabinet ministers, as they represent the president. We elected the president. At least out of respect for the citizens of the Gambia, the sovereignty of the Gambia, they should explain to us what they did and why they did it. Because everything that they're doing as an executive, I presume, is not supposed to be self-serving. Everything they're doing as an executive, as president, is in the interest of Gambia and Gambians. The interest of Gambian and Gambians supersedes any arm of government. All arms of government exist to make sure that in the interest of the welfare of the citizens. The citizens are the masters of everybody. So for me, I think they should really explain to us why they don't. Jury's still out, as I said. It was just on Thursday, and today is Thursday. It was gazetted. Maybe they will take cue, or maybe they. Yeah, I think at this stage, the least they can do is come talk to the Gambian people before all of us coming here to even start talking about this. They should have preempted this. They should have come and said, we have even before gazetting the bill. They should have at least, if I know that it's not possible to have the same extensive consultation, because I think would not be a good use of resources, because I think there was
Yeah.
already
Yeah,
extensive
the CRC
consultation.
has done
And
that, yeah.
And I think from the different dialogues, we spend a lot of money having political dialogues through International Idea and Jonathan and the rest, trying to bridge the gap between the different political stakeholders. So the difference between the political stakeholders, I think, is very well known as to why it was rejected in the first instance. So I think this time around, knowing that there are areas of divergence between, the political players, between the political parties, they should have ensured that before they take it to Parliament, right? So that they should have another round of engagement, both the political parties and civil society, to make sure that we have a consensus before it goes to Parliament. I think trying to build consensus on the parliamentary floor, I think it's a very risky endeavor.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
yeah, I think by the time this bill gets to Parliament, there should have been a very high level of consensus. Because I'll tell you something, Fanny. There is no way we can have a new constitution in this country without a high level of political consensus. And what I mean by this, and when I say political consensus, let me just be blunt to you. The two main political parties who basically whose power is almost at par in National Assembly, if they don't agree, you don't have consensus, we will not have a constitution. Why do I say this? Why do I say this? I mean, we have to be pragmatic, right? Because to pass a constitution in the Gambia, it's a very high threshold to change the constitution. It's very, as you know, it requires it has, after the gazetting process is over, it has to be presented first reading, which is formality. And the second reason for the merits and demerits, that requires 3/4, 75% of part. No, there's no political party that has 75%. No. So every other party has a veto power, and that has to happen 2 times. The objects and reasons for the bill, and then the third reading, the second and third reading. So you have to have that threshold 2 times. And even if you clear that threshold at the National Assembly, which is, in my opinion, is a tall order. In other countries, it's like 2/3, right? In Gambia, it's 3/4. You also have to go to a referendum to the Gambian citizens. In this referendum, 50% of the registered voters have to vote, which is over 400,000 people or thereabout. I think our registered number of registered voters is about 800,000. It's
918,000.
Let's say close to 450,000 Gambians have to vote. Of that 450,000, 3/4 of those also have to say yes. So even if we had all the parties agreeing that this is the most perfect constitution, it's still a tall order to really get the required vote at the referendum. Kenya struggled. They had 68% when they're passing their constitution.
New constitution.
And they were together. It was after their conflict. Kofi Annan came. They were a happy family, and in the second time round, and they were able to do it together. We cannot even for the referendum, if the political parties don't do it on a non-bipartisan basis, in a non-political political way, you cannot. It's very difficult for us to succeed. So for me, coming out with a bill that has so many changes is really inherently problematic. I mean, I as a Gambian, I really prefer for us to move away from the 1997 constitution, have a new constitution. And for that reason, I think we have to find a way of building the right consensus to ensure that we really agree to have a constitution that will serve our interests. And that requires more consensus building. And that hasn't happened yet. And I'm not so sure how that can happen. Once it goes to Parliament, it becomes a political partisan affair. Different political parties will look at it from partisan lens.
According to party line, and then
let me tell you something. I think the CRC was a very very good process. But I think when the CRC was conceived, we were post Gambia has decided we're one happy family. One happy family. So we have the highest level of political consensus. Ken Merut. right?
Wow.
But
Right.
after we have a split, then we have a split, right? So we became politically polarized,
Yes.
right? So if you look at, if you study how constitutions are built are built in different countries, particularly in the continent, you realize that it's always good to have a constituent assembly, an assembly that basically insulates the process of constitutional building from partisan politics. So you have different stakeholders in it. So it's not only you have different stakeholders in it who really decide what the constitution should look like, rather than it being in the hands of political parties. Because political parties, I mean, they
In
pretty much
US, we call it the bipartisan group, where they agree.
exactly,
Yeah.
and not only that. This one is not even bipartisan. This one is a group that has no party colors. It has partisan people, political people, civil society, religious leaders, civil servants, judges. Everybody's there. That's what they do in Kenya. People's Assembly. It's called Constituent Assembly, and India also did it. But I'm just saying that we didn't have. And now we are in a position whereby we are now at the mercy of ping pong game, politics again. One party will agree. If one party agrees, says white, other party will say Z, and we have to look at the greater interest of the country. So how do we now make sure that we somehow insulate this process so that we are not at the mercy of party politics? That's the biggest challenge we have right now.
Absolutely. Mr. Tal, the conversation is so interesting that, I have exceeded my time allocated for this particular show. But, we still have at least 10 minutes more to finalize this discussion. So legally, do you think that the process of reintroducing the draft constitution, is in line with the law? Because this is a bill for a new constitution. And, as a legal guy, do you think it followed the due process for its reintroduction?
I think our problem is not legality. Our problem is legitimacy.
Yeah.
I think I don't want to bore you with legalese, but I think this bill is brought pursuant to Section 226. And as far as I'm concerned, the executive can present a bill, and they have complied with the prescribed steps under the bill, meaning they have to gazette it 2 times. I mean, the first being 90 days, and the second publication after 10 days. So I think so far they have complied with the dictates of the law.
What about the changes made, to that particular constitution they are introducing? Is that
it's not a constitution, it's a document.
It was never yeah.
I mean, it has never been a constitution. A document was presented. I mean, the TRC 20 was a bill,
Yeah.
a bill that was presented and rejected, and that bill was presented at the behest of the executive. So the executive has taken that as a working draft, and make changes. So for me, I don't see any legal issues with that. I think it's as the prerogative of the executive to basically, I mean, I think they can. I mean, I don't agree with the changes, but I don't see any legal issues with working on that bill. I mean, it's a question of legitimacy, as I said. Is this process legitimate? And legitimacy is as important as legality, because you can tick the legal box and still fail because people don't feel that they own this constitution and they can vote against this. Stakeholders may feel that this constitution is not a reflection of the aspiration, they can reject it. So I think I don't want to focus on legality. I want to focus on how do we make this process, how do we make sure it's legitimized so that it belongs to us Gambians. What has happened has already happened. Okay. How do we make it? How do we constructively put it on track? I think that's where us, the bar and civil society and other Gambians can come together and really find a way of ensuring that the draft meets the requirements and aspirations of Gambians. So all those provisions which we think that should not be in the constitution, we should advocate for them to be removed. So we should also try. And we will over the course of the days, weeks, and months. We'll talk to we'll analyze, review, analyze, and highlight the different provisions and import and meaning of those provisions towards our quest to build a people-centered democracy, a constitution which is required for a people-centered democracy. Because as far as I'm concerned now, this is a cabinet constitution. This is not a people. So we moved from 2020 gave us a people-centered constitution, and now 2024 we have gone back to a cabinet executive-centered constitution. And I think we've seen what happened in. Giving too much power to an individual is dangerous.
Absolutely.
Right? We've seen in what happened in Senegal. Macky Sall's constitution was an imperial constitution. When Macky came, he didn't change the wider constitution. When he was in opposition, he was making a lot of noise about the wider constitution giving too much power to the president. When he came, he literally worked with the constitution and weaponized the constitution, and that almost brought the country to its knees. So let us learn from our neighbors. Let's learn from our neighbors and ensure that we have a constitution that is people-centered. That is how you build a sustainable democracy, which is in the interest of everybody.
Thank you very much. The Salou Tall, former president of the Gambia Bar Association, speaking to me live from Banjul on the reintroduction of the draft constitution to the parliament. Mr. Tall, let's shift a little bit focus before I let you go. From the draft constitution, let's talk about efforts to bring Jammeh to justice. How close are we in this regard, especially at a time when we are talking about a new constitution?
I don't like to personalize just accountability to Yahya Jammeh. I think Yahya Jammeh is one of 69 or 70 persons accused of committing very serious crimes against Gambians who ought to be held accountable. And as you know, there is in motion a process of establishing a criminal accountability mechanism, a hybrid court, and also there's already established a special division of the criminal court.
Mr. Sal, I'm not seeing your face well. Is it Nawek or what?
No, let me go inside because I'm actually sitting outside.
Yeah, so. your camera is not very clear. Yeah, but we are left with 5 more minutes, so
yeah.
We should be okay.
So okay, let me sit inside.
That's Salou Tall, the president of the Gambia Bar, former president of the Gambia Bar Association, talking to me live from Banjul. So, Mr. Tall, how close are we?
So I think we're very close. A joint ECOWAS Gambia technical committee was set up, and I'm privileged to be part of it. And it has the Bar Association, the victims-led associations are represented, ECOWAS represented, the Attorney General is represented. And we have drafted the required legal instruments to establish a hybrid court, and these instruments have been submitted to ECOWAS. So it's now it's going through the ECOWAS processes, and we hope in December ECOWAS also will approve those instruments. And at the local level, a Reparation Act has been passed. A special prosecution office bill has been passed to establish Office of a Special Prosecutor to appoint a special prosecutor who will start looking at the information to start building cases. And also a special court has been established by the powers of the Chief Justice, a special division of the High Court, which can try some of those crimes which can be tried under domestic law. So there's work that's being done, or that's not for you at the moment. So there's work that's been done. I think in December we'll have I trust in December we will be able to sort of address, get the approval of ECOWAS on their side. But at the local level, the required legal framework and laws are already in place. And I think at least if we have a constitution that has this provision, that actually has a specific provision on the establishment of international court, will also make our work easier. I think a lot of progress has been made towards ensuring there's criminal accountability.
Yeah,
and definitely, yeah.
Okay. Many thanks for joining us. As you see right now in Banjul, Salou Tall is a victim of Nawek on and off.
No one. Everybody's a victim, you see.
Not only you. So for those joining
Yeah,
us, we have come to the tail end of the show. The final take with me is Seni Marena. Speaking to me live from Banjul is Mr. Salou Tal, the former president of the Gambia Bar Association and a prominent legal practitioner in the Gambia. Many thanks, Salou, for joining us to discuss the draft
yes.
constitution and
Yeah.
efforts to bring Gambia to justice.
Thank you very much, MK. It's a great pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Tune into the final take with MK Mariner every Saturday.